Yes! So welcome back to the last video for this week of Fair Friday. In this case, we're going back to Canada, because, you know, I gotta destroy that stereotype that Canadian people are always nice. In this case, our killer, we don't even know where our killer, like, we know, okay, so we know who the killer is, right? But we don't know exactly where the killer is right now, if they're even still alive, because this case happened in, like, the late 40s, so they could still be alive, or she could be dead. Either way, this case was probably well known in Canada at one point, and probably even still is. So with that being said, let's get straight into the video.
But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, baby, you'll get sick of being the monster out of my head, under my bed. Think you're something out of my nightmares, standing right there. But if I lay down and I play dead and I stay dead, then will you get bored of killing me?
So Evelyn Dick was born on October 13, 1920 to Alexandria and Donald McLean, who were Scottish immigrants. So Evelyn is part Scottish. Donald was born in 1878, and Alexandra was born in 1885. And so she was living in Beamsville, Ontario until she was 1. And they moved to Hamilton because her father got a job as a streetcar conductor. It was said that her father was an alcoholic and her mother had anger issues. It is alleged, but it's not confirmed, that her father did violate her when she was younger. Of course, not confirmed, but I think like at least one source said that. So during her childhood, Evelyn apparently spent a lot of time playing inside because her parents thought that she was too fragile to be playing with other neighborhood kids. In an effort in order to seem high class, because apparently in Hamilton it was very important to seem high class, they put her in this all-girls prestigious like private school. You know, private school's expensive, even back then. And so in a desperate attempt to make friends, Evelyn apparently would give the girls money in exchange for friendship. So I literally would pay you to be my friend. And so, of course, apparently the beauty that she had even back then, like when she was younger, that caused girls to be jealous. Hence why they didn't want to be friends with her. So she still would start hanging out with these like older men, and hang out with them. A lot of them, but apparently at a racetrack. And so apparently these rumors were actually said to have been true, because when she was 22, she gave birth to her daughter, Heather Marie White. She wasn't married, which, you know, obviously this is like, this is the early 40s. So obviously the early 40s, World War II kind of era, that was considered unacceptable. So, of course, Heather was sadly born with mental retardation. Evelyn, in order to save her ass, remember, she's not married and this is the 40s. She says, look, my husband's actually a soldier and he's out fighting. Her husband's a soldier. He's out fighting. This is during World War II. So she uses the war, basically pretend like, look, my husband's name's Norman White. He out fighting. Of course, we obviously know this isn't true. There's not even a record of a Norman White that was out fighting, so we know that's a lie. Heather is born and successfully and does survive, but sadly she would get pregnant again out of wedlock. Who the actual father is, we don't know. And that child is stillborn at 7 months. They say again, Wayne's the father. Norman's the father. He came home. They did the deed, because, you know, they're married. You know, when you're married, you can do that. And she got pregnant again. And she puts this Norman guy as the father on the birth and death certificate for the stillborn baby. So then on September 5th, 1944, Evelyn gave birth to a baby boy named Peter. She didn't come home with Peter, which obviously, you know, they're gonna be suspicious. Like, didn't you just give birth? Like, where the hell your child at? So then she claims she gave Peter up for adoption to the point that she was already a single mom and didn't need to add the extra kid onto her. So I don't know what story she gave. I don't know. Maybe she said Norman died in the war or they had split. But that's the story she used, pretty much. And so then she moves out of her place. Evelyn and her daughter, Heather, who is still alive, they go get an apartment together. Because by this point, her parents already split, and apparently they put her out after they had split. And so she's not even living in this apartment for apparently a full month when she announces that she's married to this random guy named John Dick. And they are said to be married within 2 weeks. And then John apparently was born in 1906, so he's like 15 years older than her. May 25th, 1906, and he had been living in Hamilton for about 2 years before he met Evelyn, and he had came to Canada from Russia to help escape from the Russian Revolution. So then, of course, Evelyn, of course, you know, you guys explain how the hell you got this kid. She said, look, I was married, but the husband died in the war, so of course people are going to feel bad, because like, your husband died serving our country. So John, of course, actually had the same job that Donald did. Remember, Donald is Evelyn's father. The mother, Alexandra, she's always surprised because like you ain't never mentioned this man before, and now like you engaged. Like what? And so on October 4th, they get married. Her parents do not attend because they don't approve the funeral. Sorry, the wedding, the marriage. Did his parents attend? I did not see that, but I mean, I feel like I would have mentioned if they didn't attend either, since hers didn't attend. But either way, yeah, they don't attend because they don't approve of the marriage. She's still excited though. She don't give a shit because, well, she think John got money. And it said that not even a week had passed by after they were legally married. I think like day 5, she was already cheating on John. And within for the first month they were legally married, she was still living with her mother, saying that there wasn't enough room for both of them. So John did not like this. So Evelyn gets a house in her name, because the houses are a lot cheaper than they were now. So, but even this is a house we're talking about. So she tells the landlord that the baby that she was pregnant with had died, and she was just waiting to get like the stillborn child that's still in her removed. So the marriage eventually goes downhill, as of course as it usually does in these cases, when Evelyn realizes that John is not as rich as she thought he was, and so she leaves him alone with Heather, which is not even his child, it's a stepchild technically, while she is out partying with other men. And so I didn't see who exactly, but apparently somebody was left a fortune by a family member that apparently passed, and John said he's going to go start selling products with his mom in order to help provide for the family. Because, you know, you the man of the house, and this is still the 40s, so it's kind of expected that the man provide for the house. If he can, of course. So then Evelyn, okay, so I guess he has like a cousin, Alexander, who convinces him to like leave Evelyn, and he does, and apparently he's heartbroken, because I guess he genuinely loved Evelyn, but you know, Evelyn, she didn't give a shit. And so at one point, Donald is bring home more money than he's supposed to. Not like a raise or a bonus or like, you know, like a major tip or anything. But it's believed he's stealing money and tickets from his job, and no one believed it. And John, Evelyn's husband, had apparently figured it out, and Donald said that he was going to get John to make sure he doesn't tell the boss. So on March 6th of the following year, this is the last time John is seen alive. He is seen in a hotel cafe ordering soup, pie, and coffee. On the following day, so not the following day, 10 days later, on March 16th, 1946, 5 kids. So there's 5 kids, Fred, Jimmy, and Robert. They're obviously all, I think, like brothers, if not cousins. And then you got these 2 other kids, David and Faith, they're siblings. They're apparently walking along the woods by themselves, and they find what they think is a headless torso. They find what they originally think is a headless pig, but is actually the torso of an adult male. So the torso, of course, looked like there was an attempt to cut it in half. So the kids, obviously, they, I guess, like, told somebody, and then that person called the police, or maybe they called the police themselves. I don't know. Either way, police eventually gets called. This makes the news. The cousin Alexander, who helped John move out of Evelyn's place, he goes to police, like, saying, hey, like, that, I think that's my cousin John. As one does. And so apparently in my notes, because I took these notes way back in like October of last year, and it is the middle of July. So the next part of my notes says he too left without a trace. So apparently, I guess Alexander went missing too. When they call Evelyn in, they're expecting a grieving widow because she was his wife, but said she's over his assistant. Like, I ain't got nothing to do with this. They are able to identify the torso as being John. And so it will soon be revealed to police that Evelyn had borrowed a 1938 Packard car, and that car was covered in type O blood, which apparently that was the type of blood that John had. The seat was also removed, and there were bloody clothes in the trunk. So Evelyn left a note saying that Heather was the one who basically like accidentally cut herself, as to why the car was so bloody, even though she was 4, and a 4-year-old wouldn't have that much blood. So versus an adult male like John. So then Evelyn is obviously questioned again. There are details about an Italian hitman. She's basically trying to say that John slept with his hitman's wife, so he got revenge by obviously killing John, as hitmen do. The man had apparently asked to meet up, hence why she brought the car. And when they met up, apparently he had a bag of body parts that were once John. And so apparently she drove this man and his belongings and the parts of John to the mountains. And of course, police asked, are you even shocked at all? And she's like, it's a mean trick to tear up a family. And so, of course, she later changes her story again and says that a man by the name of Bill Bahozek, I think I said that right. Bill basically hired the hitman that she is saying killed John. And so, of course, Bill was born in 1918. I don't have the exact date. He and Evelyn apparently met while she was coming out of a movie, and they apparently had an affair together when only Evelyn and John had been together for about 5 days. So in another statement, she would claim that the hitman paid Bill $200. Bill paid the hitman $200 to kill John, which $200 back then was like a lot more than it is now. And so then eventually, of course, she says that Bill killed John himself instead of the hitman, and that she was in the car when it happened. So then, of course, police, I guess, are like tired of her changing her story, so they go to the house and they find the remains of Peter, her son. So Evelyn finds out, I'm assuming from the police, that Bill has been brought in and they found Peter's remains. So of course now she's blaming Bill for like Peter and John's murders. So then of course they go to search the home she grew up in. They find bullet holes in the pipe, revolvers. They find bloodstained shoes and saws. So Evelyn, Bill, and Donald, which is Evelyn's father, are all charged with murder because I guess at this point they found enough evidence to prove that Donald was involved. Eventually, it is asked during trial if the possible father of Peter, because apparently they didn't know who the father of Peter was, if the possible father of Peter could be between 300 and 400 men. Of course, she says no. She says it's more around like 150, like 150 possible men, and that the judge's son was actually one of those possible men. And so, of course, apparently she gives a list of all the men that she slept with. So even though it's like 150 just around the time of conception, she still can somehow remember all the men that she's been with. And so the judge has a restraining order made so that way the list of men were not publicly released, because apparently a lot of them were like upper class and married, kids, like we don't need their reputations ruined. And apparently, again, she said, your son's name is also in this list. So I guess he didn't want the son's name coming out. So then, of course, what happened to the son, if he decided to do anything with the son, was not public knowledge. On January 7th, 1947, she is sentenced to hang, because even though she may not have directly participated in the murder, she didn't know it was going to happen, didn't report anything, so therefore, you obviously are guilty. So Bill and Donald apparently have their trials together. Bill has all his charges dropped only because Evelyn was his only witness in the murder, if he even was involved, and she refused to testify against him. So there's no evidence, you're free to go, pretty much. And so Donald ended up getting accessory after the fact and only got 5 years. Apparently he was bonded out with like $5,000, and bond was a lot lower than it is now. And when he first was arrested, he was bonded out for $2,000, which I feel like I should have mentioned. And so Donald winds up dying on May 3rd, 1955. And so Evelyn, of course, files her appeal, because I just got sentenced to hang, he gets set free, and he gets 5 years, and I'm set to die. Obviously, she's going to try to appeal. Well, apparently she gets an appeal that she asked for only because she feels the judge did not give proper instructions to the jury when sentencing, and the police apparently did not properly handle evidence used in this case. So thanks to this appeal, apparently she winds up getting her charges dropped too, because she never got officially sentenced for his death. And to this day, nobody has been sentenced for his death, even though it's kind of obvious she was involved. And apparently his head was burned back at the house, so I guess they found evidence of that. The torso could not be disposed of. Well, the torso could not be burned, hence why it was just thrown out. And so, however, remember, we still have the death of this child. Peter. So she gets sentenced to life in prison on manslaughter charge for Peter. So she's going to jail for one murder. 11 years later, on November 10th, 1958, she gets released on parole. So of course, with this being Canada, she is able to get a new name and start a new life. Her mother died on January 7th, 1964. On July 7th, Alexandria died July 7th, 1964. She actually got immunity somehow because she testified against Evelyn by saying that Evelyn was gone from the house a long time during March 6th, which is the day believed to be when John died. And so, of course, Evelyn, this being her husband, she was expected to show up at the funeral but didn't. And apparently when Alexandra died, she left behind $11,000, which is a lot back then, to Heather. Heather decided to go by her middle name because I guess there was a lot of press surrounding her. So instead of going by Heather instead of going like by Heather, she went by Marie McLean, because we're gonna use our parents' last name instead of my mom, because you know her mom's pretty much is like infamous in Canada at this point in time. So Heather eventually obviously grows up. She winds up getting married. Don't know the last name of the husband or even first name. They get married, but within 10 years of them getting married, they're already divorced. So back to Evelyn in 1985, she no longer has to report to the parole board. And so her files are to be sealed away forever. Because remember, she wanted a new name. So like what her new name is not even publicly known. And her current whereabouts are unknown. So it's not even known if she even died. But of course, if she's still alive, at the time of this video, she would be like 103 and a half years old. And so of course, what the story's crazy is this, there's also gonna be like a movie or a couple movies that come out, as there is. Well, there was a movie called Torso, the Evelyn Dick story, that was supposed to come out on 9/11 September. That was supposed to come out 9/11/2001, but you know, for obvious reasons, due to what happened, they changed that shit to March 2002 because of like what happened on that day. So then in 2014, I don't know whose idea this was, but apparently somebody started some Evelyn Dick merch, because apparently out of nowhere in Canada there was like such a high demand for Evelyn Dick merch, despite what she did. And they say it was like in memory of Evelyn. But of course, like, who am I to judge? I mean, there's the demand for it. Get your bread, I guess. I don't know. I guess everybody involved in the case is technically dead, so it's like, who are you really hurting? But still, it just seems kind of weird you're doing it of the killer or someone involved in the murder, not the actual victim. But okay. So anyway, yeah, that was the case of Evelyn Dick. Of course, I guess. Definitely a lot I unpacked there, just in that case alone. But yeah, just thought it was really interesting. Of course, so you already know how I am. Usually covering the cases that no one else really covers. And so yeah, with that being said, I will see you for the next one. Bye.
So if I play dead, will you regret everything that you did, that you said? I don't think you understand what you're doing, and my heart's black and blue from the bruising. I feel like when I'm with you I'm losing. I feel like you think that this amusing, sitting there gaslighting and confusing. Was it me? Is it me? Am I deluded? I'm the one who's always sorry, the conclusion. Even though I offer all of the solutions, I wish you loved me like I love you, it's stupid. When I'm alone with you I never feel lucid. I wish I wasn't struck by Cupid. I wish when I first saw you I knew this. When I'm with you I feel so useless, I feel diluted, my heart's been wounded. Silhouettes of you are like a taunt, never really know just what you want. With you I don't ever feel calm, I can feel the sweat inside my palm. Play with me like cats and a string. You don't understand the pain it brings. You don't ever wanna give me wings. You don't ever wanna set me free.
But if I lay down and I play dead and